Let me at 'em!
Well, there it is. Hi guys and welcome to a map review. Today we will be reviewing the map from Davis Krell called Hidden Treasures. This is a 5 versus 5 map which is gigantic and has quite a lot to play around with. So he says in his little notes that he had to edit the unit attack types and shops that were selling incorrect items, and the attack types were wrong because they were doing too much damage, or now they're piercing attacks instead of magic. And apparently, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but it lets you get more than 3 heroes if you use the tavern. But don't do that. So I think you might well have not fixed the map. If we go to map description, valuable treasures are up for grabs for adventurers who are willing to take everything. Be aware, others will race you for their values that rest in the temple. Okay, so default based on map. So that might be the problem. If you're a map maker or you're creating a map, what you need to do is you need to go to file, wait, not file. Scenario, map description, hello there guys, then go over to options and at game dataset change this to melee latest patch and then click OK. That'll sort of like load all of the units and they'll incorporate the latest patch, which is 1.26, so the frozen throne and stuff like that, which explains why you're getting piercing damage instead of magic damage and things like that, where typically a lot of the creatures now have magic damage. For example, back in Reign of Chaos, I think casters probably used piercing damage, whereas now they obviously use magic damage. The only problem is because you said you edited the creeps, you might have manually edited it and made it so that they do piercing damage regardless of whether I implement that change. If we go to F6, I'll have to get rid of my Let's Go's toolkit here. Let's see if you did edit any of these units in specific. Yeah, you can see. So you're going to have a problem here. You've changed the Griffin Riders to magic because, like you say, they were doing piercing damage, and you're like, well, that doesn't make sense. So you've done a lot of changes here from piercing to magic, and really what you would need to do is, this is probably going to affect quite a lot of stuff along the way. Like even the Voodoo Lounge now has different items that you're selling from it. Healing salve, you've implemented these items because those are the items that are in there, and you probably had like the Reign of Chaos stuff, even though it doesn't really make much sense. I do know this because we did play on a map a long time ago on a subsat or something like that, where it was a Reign of Chaos map but kind of played in the Frozen Throne, and we had weird items that you could get from a Voodoo Lounge, and it's bizarre because a Voodoo Lounge doesn't exist in Reign of Chaos anyway, so it should only have these set items. Or the way it solved itself was to sell items from Reign of Chaos within the Voodoo Lounge that belongs to the Frozen Throne, if that makes any sense. So I don't know if I can reset everything. I'd have to go through it one by one, and I think when you reset a unit to its defaults, I can't, yeah, I'd have to go through all of these and reset it. So I'm not sure how fun that is to watch, but depends just how many units we got here. It's not that many. But we'll reset everything back, and hopefully that should fix the issues, because the manual changes you've made are just essentially changing piercing to magic. I think fairy dragons do piercing damage anyway and not magic damage, and I assume that you changed that from piercing to magic because you think they do magic damage, but they don't, they do piercing. I'm pretty sure they do. Thank you Avix for subscribing. You're very welcome. I've not got a message though. Have you not subscribed before, boy? I don't know. But thank you anyway, Avix. I know you've been supporting me through donations. So maybe this is your first time subscribing, because normally I get a message. Okay, we're almost here. Tavern. So you messed around with the tavern. That might be an issue as well. You had to implement those heroes because potentially the tavern... Yeah, I can see something. We don't know how this is going to play out, but I'm resetting everything to default. However, there's still technically a unit here. Standard units, 834, and it's pink, which means that one of them is steel. Steel! modified. It's the rock golems and the granite golems. Ah, there you go. 3 months in a row. Yes, thank you, Avix. I thought he was longer than just like 1 month. It's caught up now. And there's still a unit here, and it's under heroes. Firelord. What on earth did he do to Firelord? You actually had to give him abilities. Incinerate arrow. Is that right? That seems wrong. Let's see what happens when we reset him. Ha. It swaps his abilities around, so they were in a different order. Okay, fair enough. Oh, Galmater, thank you very much for subscribing. And I'm going to assume once more, because I have to wait for these to catch up. The chat thing isn't working as well as I'd like it to, so I've got to give it a little while. But yes, that's everything re-updated. Unless, Davis, you went into, say for example, the gameplay constants and changed anything from there, which I don't... It doesn't look like you did. For those that are curious, the gameplay constants are things like the food population, you know, the costs of researches and how long it takes for just generally anything that affects the game to... you can edit a lot, as you can see, so it doesn't look like you touched it there, so that's okay. Right, shall we actually get on to talking about the map, because I've had to go and make all of those changes and hopefully it should be working as normal. In fact, I'm just going to save this now. So we've made that change and that's done. So let me zoom out for you guys and you can have a whole look at this giant 5 versus 5 map. Oh my goodness, this is going to get real slow and laggy in a moment. Oh, look at that. That's how much it drains because it is that large. It's quite a pretty looking map, obviously using the sunken temple template. And you have your positions here on the west side versus those on the east side. It's looking relatively symmetrical, and you've got this middle temple of which the players can delve into and explore to get powerful creeps, items from those creeps, and potentially the rewards within, such as the Fountain of Health or the shops or even expansions. So let's start off from, for example, player 1's point of view. That would probably be the easiest way to go from this. So if you were to play this in 4 versus 4 instead of 5 versus 5, one of these gold mines would have these creeps by them, which could be crept by the team. So let's go and see what this creep drops. Level 5 permanent item from a level 10 creep. I think that's acceptable. We're okay with that. If you guys are curious as to what level 5 permanent items are, they're very good. They're like Claws of Attack plus 15, I think. No, plus 12, sorry. Ancient Django of Endurance, Cloak of Flames, basically the big kind of aura style things, as well as the big powerful boost to a particular hero's strength and agility, that sort of stuff. So that's perfectly fine, accessible, but let's just assume that player 1 spawns here and you don't have any of these big ass creeps for you to creep. You got your green camp, which is nearby, where you're going to start off with a level 1 power up item. That's fine, because this is a 5 versus 5, so you're typically going to probably creep things together. And if you're doing this solo, you're not really going to be rewarded for playing solo that much. So that's fine to have some crappy little level 1 item from a level 3 creep with 400 health. Personally, I think it's probably better to have something like a level 1 permanent item, such as you know, a Cloak of Shadows or something along those lines, because at least that's a little bit more rewarding. And you know, Gauntlets of Ogre Strength, they build up your hero towards the next creep camp. It's more rewarding than a level 1 power up tome, which is basically agility plus 1 or strength plus 1, which is meh. So probably would change that if I was honest with you, but under the circumstances that it's 5 versus 5, it doesn't matter that it's just a power up tome, because you can get really powerful stuff the further you progress into this map. Let's see what this guy drops. Probably the same thing. So the crabs are basically not going to get touched. If you're playing this map smartly as a team, you probably won't bother with the crabs unless you want to get Rod of Necromancer out. Okay, we're looking at this next gold mine, which is in between red, blue, and teal. So his abilities are Cleaving Attack, Devotion Aura. Makes him a bit difficult to deal with because he's got 800 health as well. Level 2 power up item. That's really bad. Come on now. Level 2 power up item. That's agility plus 2 and stuff like that. I mean, time of experience is the best you're going to get out of that. So for a level... What level is he? Level 7 mob. you might want to be a little bit more generous. I would suggest a level 4 charged item, because that's quite fun for team games, where you can get a Book of the Dead or something like that. But the trouble is you couldn't really particularly use that on a map like this, because in order to get to your opponent's bases, where we'll explore a little bit more, you can quite clearly see you're going to have to go through this like maze-like terrain in order to get towards your opponent's side. It's not too difficult to traverse, but at the same time that's going to take probably a minute or two potentially. So change it to a level 3 permanent item, otherwise level 4 charged item is fine on that. Let's have a look at the Goblin Laboratory. Level 2 power-up item again, huh? Seems to be a bit of a theme going on here, and that's on the level 5 Makara, which is still quite powerful. He's the dude that entangles and spawns the little, well, the little Makaras, I think. And then you got next to him the Deep Seer. Oh no, the Deep Seer is the one that does it. The Snapper is just a tough, beefy guy that can take a hit, but the Deep Seer is the one that does that. Spawns the little prawns and entangling roots, and he drops a level 2 permanent item. That's more of an improvement. That's like Claws of Attack plus... oh no, hang on a second. Oh, it is. Claws of Attack plus 6. And Gloves of Haste, and yeah. Yeah, that would be fine if you were only killing that and maybe a couple of crappy creeps, but because of this guy here as well, I think that might need to be boosted to a level 3 permanent item, or again level 4 charged. You're looking along those lines. Or if you don't want to give one creep too much of a powerful item, perhaps give a level 2 charged item here and a level 1 permanent item there, so at least you've got a mix and match, and maybe even a level 1 power up item on this little guy as well. So just boost the items, I would say, a little bit right now. There's another expansion over here, but this is delving in towards the enemy, so I'm going to stick along the front lines of where you guys are spawning on the west side. So, as you can see, the middle spot has access to these Murlocs, and these Murlocs, level 6 Marauder, a very tough creep, 1000 hit points, command aura, level 2 power-up item. Well, I'll tell you what, you could work together to boost one Blade Master on your team. All 5 of you. Go and creep all of these camps and make sure that the Blade Master picks up every single power-up item plus 2. Whether it's even agility or strength or whatever, just give it all to the Blade Master. And if the game goes long enough, he could end up being a killing machine. So, yeah, might want to boost the item. You don't need to be super powerful. If you still want to be stingy because it's 5 versus 5, but I think you do need to be a bit more generous. You can keep it level 2 power-up item, but you want to drop down the power of this creep. Level 6 creep dropping a level 2 power-up item is not good. So we established that this guy is cool. He actually drops a very reasonable item. However, he probably won't exist if you're playing in 5 versus 5. So let's just ignore that. And then that is basically the creeps on the front line. So then you would need to progress towards your foes. Actually, no, we got a little bit more. Got another Goblin Lab. Hang on a second. Oh, you do have a shop. Got to check for the shop. So you got Goblin. So each base is going to have what? 2 laboratories and then 1 shop. Why not a mercenary camp here? I guess you wanted to keep the Goblin laboratories available for anyone, but if it is a 5 versus 5, you have this in 4 versus 4 RT where the Goblin laboratory be on like the top left, and the player at the bottom left doesn't have access to it easily, but if he wants it, then he better send a peon or something to get towards it, to get the actual units from it, so you still got to put the effort in. So I think that should probably be a mercenary camp, but perhaps because the map is so large, you want to put the mercenary camps closer towards the middle, but that's just my provocative. I think a mercenary camp here instead. So what have we got? A snapper, tanky dude, level 3 permanent item, that's better, but my goodness, you got 2 rock golems, that's so powerful. That's not an easy creep camp to do. But permanent items are always cool for the long run. Level 3 ones, Claws of Attack plus 9 I think, and stuff like that is pretty useful. So you can't argue too much with that. But 2 rock golems is pretty nasty. Okay, we're going to go over here actually. So we're still following red actually. So let's go up from the top position. Let's play some more of that awesome music because we missed out on that. So over here you get your jungle stalkers, and again really powerful creeps. Level 6 with a level 2 permanent item, not really cutting it. Needs to be higher. If it's like a level 6 creep or something like that, or look at it from the total level, which is 12, that's reasonable. You want to give level 3 or more. I mean, you could get away with level 2 on that, but I think this guy should drop like a level 2 charged item as well. That's just again, my opinion. Now this is an even bigger guy, level 9. So he's got 1600 health, slam, he's going to take a while to kill. And he drops a level 3 charged item, needs to be level 4 minimum, potentially level 5, level 1 power up item. So these creeps are really powerful, but they don't really drop that much reward. I do like the aesthetics of this map though. The smashed up sunken door looks pretty cool. This weird maze-like style. You could do with a few more sort of doodads here and there to give it a bit more life, but it looks cool. This map makes me think more of a sort of, once you get to this middle section, it makes me think way more of a sort of like a custom campaign level, if I'm being honest, but I like the effort. Level 3 charged item from a level 7 turtle. You're very stingy on the items, I would say. Again, because the map is big and it's got a lot of creeps, so there's a lot to do, so I reward you for that. I think that's great. You're putting out a lot out there, so the worst thing in my experience, 4 versus 4 RT and stuff like this, when you run out of stuff to do, like creeps, it gets a bit boring, especially if you can't really attack your enemies. So you want things to keep yourself preoccupied with, creeps, things to aim for, but you need to get a little bit more out of them. Level 2 charged item, level 5, it still needs to be just up the item level by like 1 or something if you're going to go along a more fair road. If you want to be a little on the generous side but probably more accurate, you would probably almost up the item level by 2. Level 2 permanent item from a level 7 creep. Again, that would need to be like level 4 permanent item. Level 5 skeletal grunt, level 2 power up item. Blade Master, bring it back. This is the guy that death coils you. So you guys know the map Twilight Ruins, yeah? With the skeletons sort of like in the inner side of the map, and there's one there in the middle, so top left, right, bottom left. And I've had some fun with those when they've death coiled my allies and killed them. Good times. And they're nasty creatures, you're going to take some damage doing this, so you need to get way more of a reward. I don't want to keep harking on about that, but we're just going to assume, okay, you need more on these items. I'm going to assume a lot of these creeps are dropping crap, basically. You got a shop over here, which I really quite like. Like, yeah, it's so... I mean, you got access to... So you're not just going down this long, thin path, but because the map can't be too big, it doesn't really feel like a 5 versus 5 in a sense, because it's not so open. There's all these little linear paths. This looks much more like a free-for-all map, if I'm honest. Like, I think this could work well as a free-for-all map, much more than a 5 versus 5, but it would have to be smaller in that sense, because a 5 versus 5 is a lot for a free-for-all. Typically you only have 4 people in a free-for-all. So, yeah. I like the shop though, the position of it. It just seems kind of cool how you come down this long path and you can either access the shop from down here. If you have a unit up there, you have to go to traverse up there, and then you might come across an opponent that also wants to get to the shop and they need to come up the ramp to get to the items from the shop, and you can see them because you're on the upper ground and they can't see you because they're on the lower ground, so you can wait for them to come up and then gank them, but you've got to go through these 2 creeps, so you're going to be pretty vulnerable before you get there. What's the deal with these hermit crabs up on the top of this? Oh, you got a bunch of skinks here as well. And the frogs. I like it. It just doesn't... How do they even exist? Like, they're not very smart evolutionary-wise, are they? They won't last long. Okay, so you get to this creep camp here, which is the same as the one at the bottom left. Level 3 permanent item. Level 8 creep needs to be way more powerful again. Level 2 power-up item. Oh, it's a level 1 power-up item. Okay. Fair enough. And we got Sea Elementals with a level 2 charged item. That's a bit more fair. So people say in the chat room again, area of effect you can abuse a little bit. I think there's truth to that. Because of the narrow pathways, you might do quite well with a, you know, archmage. Pull them in. You get enough damage, maybe rifles to keep their attention, stuff like that. You can blizzard to high hell. But let's go a little bit lower. You got a gold mine over here, so there are gold mines accessible on this map, as you can see in the inner side. You've got a gold mine closer to the player's base. So each team has 1, 2, 3 gold mines sort of like on their side, and then if you want to get more gold mines, you need to go inside of the map. So I think that's fair. That's fair enough. And this is a very difficult gold mine to keep. Imagine coming across that. That's going to be quite hard for the enemy to come across, although they can come across it from the top right side, so you need to scout for that. And the top right, they got 1, 2, and 3. This is a really good gold mine though. Build towers there and protect on that side. I'm not sure where you would build your town hall here. You'd have to build it like there, because that's going to block. Or there. And then it's going to be really difficult to maneuver around. So what you kind of really want to do, more than anything, is push these walls back a little bit, you know. Just give as much space as possible. Open the world up a little bit. That's too much. You know. It's not so necessary to have like everything too linear. Like it doesn't have to be identical. You can just give it a little bit more life and put in patterns like that and stuff like that. It just makes it a little bit more airy. You know. But there's your mercenary camp, so I'm still getting quite lost because the map is huge. So you got a gold mine there. Oh my. Your mercenary... Oh, where are we going? Where are we following this maze? Gold mine there. Then we come back towards our bases on the left side, and we've got mercenary camp, which is the Sunken Ruins version. So if we actually want to see what creeps we can get from the Sunken Ruins tile set, we go to Sunken Ruins, Mercenary Camp Sunken Ruins, scroll down to the units sold. Murgle Snarecaster, Makrura Snapper, Deep Seer, and Giant Sea Turtle. So the Snapper and Sea Turtles are like your kind of tanky basic units. Not much to them, attack move job. Snarecaster has slow and abolish magic. Is awesome. Pick it up whenever you can, in my opinion. It's like a 2-food Sork with damage and a bit more armor, so always worthwhile. The Deep Seer is definitely much more of a risk. Very expensive, but potentially can be very valuable in tangle and summoning units. We'll delve in further inside. So Teal has access to the middle of this as well. So he can come straight in and get himself an expansion here, which might be worthwhile doing, to be honest, because I think the expansions here and here are probably the hardest to stop. Because if you're on the enemy side, you're going to have to go inside and then all the way kind of round to try to get to it. It's really quite tricky. You'd have to go through this middle section to get to these middle expansions. So these middle expansions look like the safest by far. The hardest for the enemy to get to. That's my view on it. So you enter here, expand there. How would you get to this expansion? You'd have to go through here, up here, there, and then down there. Quite a long way to go. So I think the middle expansions are probably actually ironically the safest, even though you would think they were the easiest to get to because they're in the middle. No, not really. Just the way the map is designed. It almost feels like it needs shortcuts. But I'm not sure how I can put shortcuts in there without breaking it. Like, you'd almost need like a ramp or something like that. Let's have a look, shall we? There you go, there's like a ramp there. There's a ramp there. So you can either go around there. You've got access to this middle point and a shortcut to the enemy's gold mine. Therefore, it makes it much more of a risk to take that gold mine. But if you get a gold mine there, bear in mind that you can build towers here, which give you control and sort of a defensive point. So I think these need to be vulnerable. So adding in a ramp here and perhaps a ramp here as well helps a lot. You've actually got a ramp here already and that there. But as you can see, in order to get to that ramp, you've got to go all the way kind of round, and it's awkward, it's clunky, so yeah. What have we got? Big ass granite golem. Level 5 permanent item. You get a bit more generous towards the ones in the middle, I see. Level 10 Dragon Turtle, level 6 charged item. Now we're talking. What do we get for level 6? Is that even such a thing? It is. And of course, it's Inferno Stone, so sexy time we'll go and rush the turtles straight away in the middle. And I assume this guy drops the same. That is true, Ernest. The map is a little light on trees in the middle. So that's a good point, actually. Not only for aesthetics' sake, but also for hiding wisps and sort of like just general, maybe getting wood nearby in case you're screwed for wood at your own base. Have a few more trees. But again, the more trees you put in, the more linear it becomes, so you'd have to open it out again. But anyway, let's get to the juice, which is the middle spot. What have we got? Here we go. Ah! Artifact item. Perfect. Okay, that's fine. That can drop. You don't want too many of those. Any level artifact. So let's have a look. We've got Claws of Attack plus 15, Crown of Kings, Dagger of Escape, Mask of Death, Orb of Frost, and Ring of Protection plus 5. So that's great. And you've also got the Marketplace, which I love. It's always good to have the Marketplace. So it's good to get to the middle, basically, to fight for that Marketplace and get like the other imbalanced items that can drop. But typically the only imbalanced items that can drop from this map, from what I can see, are the ones in the middle. So if you get to the middle, you're going to get those items anyway. But I digress. If the creeps in that get sort of like bumped up in terms of like what they can drop on the other side of the map, not by much, but just a little bit more, you can go quite far. Okay, so that's basically the map. You got this other section over here. So I covered like the top section here, this maze area, and now the bottom section is actually not exactly the same. So it's not symmetrical. So again, I award you for your efforts in terms of making it different, but at the same time has a similar layout in terms of where the shops and the gold mines are positioned to a degree. But you've got different creeps going on here. Level 2 power-up item. I'm not even sure why I'm bothering to check those anymore. But yeah, you got this massive open space here. So that's a lot of open space there. And if you just dragged everything down a little bit, you could give so much more space in this space. And then close this up, if you see what I mean. So move all of that down over here. I like the shops though. I always like seeing shops. Just means potential. Got an RP section here. This is interesting. What have we got? Level 5 charged item. I assume level 5 charged item. Level 2 power up item. Level 2 power up item. And a total of 62 levels of creeps. Put it in perspective. In 4 versus 4 RT maps, your most powerful creep camps are going to be realistically around level 20 plus. Perhaps level 24, maybe even edging on to level 28 if there's like 2 black dragons. Or, you know, frost dragons like the middle of full scale assault. Something like that would probably be more likely along the lines of level 28, around that. This is level 62. You're going to need your whole team for this one. I mean, some of those creeps die. The only ones that don't die easily are the immortal. I almost call them immortals, yeah. Infernals. The rest of them can probably be manipulated a little bit, because guys like this are going to have heavy armor. So with magic damage like frostworms, shims, you can sort of like almost insta-give them. So regardless of their high hero level, they'll die very quickly. Oh, you've even got a sneaky Doom Guard at the back here with a level 4 charged item. A bit more subtle. And then, of course, the gold mines in the middle. So, I've got to give you, like, almost a 10 out of 10 for just sheer effort on map design. Well, I don't think map design is the right word for it. Aesthetically pleasing and warm and cuddly. Like, it's nice to look at. But for practical purposes, it would be a bit of a nightmare, which is why, again, I feel like it falls into that free-for-all category where you can kind of get away with weird maps like this. Look at that Anderhall map. If you haven't seen like the video where I play a free-for-all on that versus an annoying map hacker, then this is kind of similar to that, where you get towards the middle and things get a little weird. It gets a little almost narrow pathways, and there's a shop, a marketplace in the middle, and even the outer skirted areas are asymmetrical. So it's got a weird vibe to it, almost a realistic look. Like, this looks like a real living, breathing place. It's obviously a little bit empty in certain areas, particularly the middle, where I think you almost started to give up. But this bit you put some effort into, kind of. It looks the part, but it's missing a lot of doodads and stuff like that. And generally speaking, it's far too narrow for my liking, but I couldn't possibly start editing it to fix it, because that would mean that everything's going to get pushed, and then I'd have to push everything back. So it's a difficult map to edit and fix in that sense, because you've already kind of finished it. But to start from scratch again, I don't know. I think this is worthwhile playing, but there's too much obsession with this campaign feel of narrow pathways towards objectives. Players, generally speaking, like to have almost a circle. Think Gold Rush. You remember that map? It was a giant freaking circle, basically. And you had big clumps of trees and stuff like that that created pathways. But generally speaking, if you would spawn in this position, you could go boom, no problem, or boom, no problem, boom, no problem, or around the outside, around the you kind of had like 6 different paths you could take. This, unfortunately, you kind of, once you go down a pathway, you are really committed to that pathway. And if you need to fall back, or it's a little tricky. So I'm not sure how you fix that exactly. If you guys have any ideas, then feel free to let me know in the comment section below. But it definitely needs to be spaced out a little bit. I mean, if you wanted to just be purely reckless, you just like remove all of these. Just basically make everything accessible. So, practically speaking, just assume that that's a ramp and that works, and you can go down there. I can't be bothered fixing that, but you know, instead of having this kind of like, oh, I've got to go from here around to here, you can just go from there to there. You just cut the middleman. You go right through. No need for these sort of like blockades. You go right through. Move along. You don't need a special pass to get in here. So you've got different ways to go. So you can either direct that way, or you can come around this way and get yourself access to that. So I can't really fix this map for you because it would take too much of time. But I love the way it looks, and I think this is an amazing effort, Davis. So you should definitely be proud of yourself. There's a lot of thought that's gone into this. But perhaps it's a little bit too asymmetrical for its own good. The irony is that it's actually very symmetrical in a lot of aspects, but it's too sporadic in the positioning of the terrain and just the pathways. You would have to play this map a lot to really understand what you were doing in it. Because like I say, once you commit to a pathway, you are there. You're there for life, basically. These creeps can get quite tough, so you're going to spend a long time creeping them. So this map might just probably devolve into who can tech up to tier 3 the fastest and go mass frostworms and then kill all of these very difficult creep camps with normal melee units or tier 2 armies. Just bowl in there with mass shims or frostworms and you're going to have a much easier time. So hopefully you enjoyed this review. It's giving you some food for thought. Too long didn't read version. Bump up the value of the items that drop from the creeps. The amount of creeps is mostly acceptable. However, there are some barren aspects to this map, but I can kind of live with that. But at least give the barren areas a little bit more sort of foliage and doodadery to give it more life, and definitely space out these linear narrow paths, or remove them, or just do a combination of both by basically cutting out these linear paths and allowing players access to multiple different angles to approach their objectives, such as creeping, or the opponent's expansion potential, or just the opponent's main base. give the players choice and control, and you're going to get a good game out of it. That'll do it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, subscribe, like and comment. You know what you need to do by this point, and I'll see you later. Take care.